Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the kind introduction, and thank you to the NISTE organization and the NISTE organizers for this discussion, for the opportunity to be here. It's my pleasure to get to meet you all and meet you all virtually that are online to talk more about our experiences in Covation Bio in working to drive sustainability in the apparel industry globally. To begin, I just give a quick overview of who we are at Covation Biomaterials. This business was formed in 2022, separating the biomaterials business out from DuPont. Prior to that, the Sorona business, which is the commercial name for a product we'll be talking about a little bit today, was the original biomaterial developed by DuPont in the mid-2000s, launched commercially in 2006. But this platform is a part of the business that is aiming for bringing renewable, more sustainable materials that also deliver high performance and can be brought to the market at scale. And that's a key piece of our success and also our effort to be bringing these products to market. There's a lot of innovation in this space, which is fantastic, and there's a lot of new materials coming, and there's challenges to all of them, including the ones that we bring to the market. But one of the biggest has been the scalability of renewable materials. And so one of the pieces of our success with the Sorona product line and part of our core for how we approach the sustainable material market is being able to deliver things that are high performing, sustainable, and more sustainable than the incumbent materials, but also able to be produced at a scale where they can reach broad parts of the market and have a meaningful impact on the overall sustainability of the industry. And so in 2022, we were acquired by the Huafeng Group from China, and we stood up a global organization to continue this effort with their backing. We have the benefit of Huafeng being a historically important company in the textile space, and so they understand this industry. And they invested in this business because they see the potential and the meaning behind the sustainable movement in textiles and see this as the way forward. And so we're happy to have them as our owner and their investment in us to grow. For me personally, as Mr. Chairman so kindly described, I've been in the industry for 15 years working with this product and this product family and our markets, working both in the technology space and also in the business development space. And so what I'd like to share today in my discussion is what we've learned in our experience interacting with the full value chain globally, and some of the shifts in trends around sustainability, what it means for a product to be sustainable, what brands are looking for, and how the value chains are working to try to address those needs. The core principles behind this effort are still the same, but the ways that they're being addressed are evolving really daily. And so that's what we'll walk through in this discussion, and I'll look forward to answering any questions and having a good discussion at the conclusion. So overall, we're all well aware at this point that the global apparel industry has a massive impact on the environment, both in the regions where the products are being manufactured and in the regions where they're being consumed. Overall, the industries are allocated about 10% of global carbon emissions. So that's more than all international flights and all maritime shipping combined. So on the one hand, we face the industry bringing a lot of challenges to the environment, but working to address those also gives us one of the biggest opportunities to make a meaningful impact on the environment. And so this is what's exciting for us in working in this space is there's a lot of opportunity to make meaningful improvements. So to make 1 ton of petroleum-based polyester is consuming 5.5 barrels of crude oil. And so this natural resource or scarce resource consumption is a key part of this overall carbon footprint impact and part of what we're working to address with our bio-based approach to materials. At the end of life, we also have a challenge of what to do with all the textiles that are being produced. 92 million tons are being generated annually, and we don't currently have really good solutions for how to manage those. As we get more and more into this fast fashion trend, which has been further enabled by social media platforms and the changes in shopping and shipping behaviors, we've seen a 20 billion increase since 2000, and that's just continuing to grow. And so continuing to add to that 92 million tons that are being produced currently. And finally, the energy consumption that goes into supplying our industry is also 6% of the global demand. So again, another large set of resources coming to our industry and a large opportunity for us to make reductions and improvements in what we're doing. So at Covation Bio, we're working to change this through a number of different approaches. Unfortunately, we're not alone. There's legislation coming forward in major economies that's helped driving change. The EU strategy for sustainable and circular textiles has made some significant requirements that the industry is now working to respond to. We have places and localities in the United States that are making new legislation to require reporting around greenhouse gases, but there's changes going all over the world to drive this behavior. And so that's a key piece of where we're starting to see brands, consumers, and value chains adjust. Then at the industry level, we have groups like NISTI that are bringing attention to this and giving time on a platform to be able to discuss sustainability in textiles. There's India's Sustainable Resolution Project, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and the Higg Index, and many others that are bringing focus to this and bringing the industry together to solve these complex problems. Because of the way this industry is established, and we're all very familiar with the complex value chains that we work through, it's challenging for any one component of the value chain to make a significant impact on the sustainability of our products. But by working through the value chain and working together in these industry groups, we have an opportunity to make meaningful change. And that includes working with the brands and working at the consumer level. And so there's dozens and dozens of brands that are committed to this. I've just listed a few here, but this is becoming more and more a focus area, not just for specialty products and specialty brands that this is a part of their own individual value proposition, but for also the very large retailers and the very large distributors of textiles. And so we're encouraged by this and the activity that exists in the market. So again, getting back to this idea of the principles behind sustainability and what it takes are still very much the same as what they've always been, but the approach to them and how we see them materializing is what's changing. And so we've all heard the reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, those still same principles are there, but it's now we're going much deeper as we think about these. So in the reduce space, two of the trends that I'd like to talk about are what we're seeing around selection of materials by the value chain. And so this includes sustainably sourced fabrics and materials that are going to reduce the carbon footprint of the garments that are being brought to the market. In the reuse space, we're seeing a lot of shift and actual interest in working towards slow fashion. In some ways, this is a little bit contrary to how the industry has been developed and established, where growth means making more. But we're starting to see a shift both in consumer buying behaviors and brand offerings, which are more focused on products that will last and products that will endure, both in terms of their physical properties, but also in terms of their fashion. Another key piece is the secondhand and retail and rental fashion markets that are growing. The opportunity to, instead of owning a garment, renting it, or at the end of the life of a garment, returning it, that garment either being repaired or refashioned and then sold again to the market. So these are trends that we're seeing growth that give us opportunity to reuse products before they meet their end of life. And finally, at the recycle level, we'll talk a little bit about the circularity of the fashion industry and some of the trends that are going on there and how that's evolving, along with the key component of supply chain transparency. As the need for recycled materials and recycling at the end of life of a product has grown, we're also seeing a need and a requirement to be able to prove that things have been recycled and that the value chains are transparent and traceable. And so we'll also talk about that. So digging into this first trend around sustainably sourced fabric and reduced carbon footprint, some of the key challenges that the industry faces here is that piece of developing scalable and cost-effective solutions. There are some very elegant, very beautiful solutions for sustainable fibers that are cost prohibitive or require aggressive chemical processing. And so while they have a bio-based or sustainable source of material, the process to get it to a place where it's a usable fiber ultimately is offsetting some of that benefit. Another challenge is actually getting a fiber or a product that will perform once it's finally in use. The market is generally not at a widespread level willing to accept degradation in performance as a trade-off for sustainability. There are, of course, niche industries where that's allowable, or the use or the value proposition in that product is still acceptable. But for widespread adoption and making a meaningful impact on the overall sustainability of our industry, we have to be able to deliver performance. And so at Covation Bio, the way that we've worked to address this with the products that we have commercial today and for the materials that we have in our current product pipeline, we're working on tapping into the power of nature to design more sustainable materials. And so I'll talk about what that means for us with our Sorona product, and then also the concepts that we have for other products. And then we also are always pursuing the performance together with sustainability simultaneously, because we both want to make sure that the products are going to be adopted by the market, but we also want to make sure that we make products that can outlast the existing products so that we're improving the lifespan of the garments that are being made and not just creating something that lasts half as long. And so now we need to produce twice as many, and now we're offsetting those benefits that we're bringing. So it's a balance and it's a requirement to have both to be able to grow and actually have this be a scalable platform. So at Covation Bio, we make the Sorona polymer. Sorona is our brand name for polytrimethylene terephthalic acid. It's a polymer that's in the polyester family. Instead of having 2 carbons, as you have in PET from the ethylene glycol, we have 3 carbons from a molecule called 1,3-propane-diol. That 1,3-propane-diol is the renewable component of Sorona that brings 37% annually renewable plant-based content to Sorona polymer. We make that molecule by taking corn that comes from an industrial corn processing plant that provides us with sugar that we use in a fermentation process with a microbe that's designed to specifically convert that sugar into this 1,3-propane-diol. We then take that 1,3-propane-diol and we polymerize it with terephthalic acid in a traditional thermochemical process, and the resulting polymer is the Sorona PTT polymer. We then sell that to our industry partners who convert it in melt spinning processes into either homofilament, bicomponent filament, or staple products for then use downstream in the apparel industry. And so because of Sorona and its bio-based nature, comparing with incumbent materials like nylon 6, we have 37% renewable content compared to 0% in traditionally sourced nylon. Then on a life cycle basis, we ultimately use 44% less energy to make Sorona than is used to make traditionally sourced nylon 6. And finally, the production of Sorona, driven largely because of this use of this bio-based resource, we generate 59% less greenhouse gas emissions. So overall, largely because of this bio-based source that we have, we're producing less, consuming less energy and producing less emissions. So as we get into thinking about reuse and the shifts towards slow fashion and also these secondhand and rental fashion markets where garments are going to be worn more frequently and they're going to be in circulation longer, the key challenges are delivering products that are going to look new longer and have an extended useful life. And the other key piece of this is to be able to develop products and designs that remain relevant longer. And so part of that is that dimensional stability and that shape retention. And part of that is also flexibility in use and being able to be used across a wide spectrum of fabric constructions, sewing applications, and so on. And so for Covation Bio, and in particular our Sorona product, we bring increased garment durability and dimensional stability over the life of that garment. And that comes from the unique properties of the Sorona polymer and how it behaves in fibers. Then we also work to develop products that deliver performance that can be used in any fashion, in any design. We have the flexibility and the technology and the internal capability to enable a value chain to make any product that's currently popular or fashionable, without limitation. And so that flexibility, again, allows us to address a large portion of the market. So getting into a little bit of the properties and performance of the Sorona polymer when we put it into a fabric, some of the key performance attributes that we have are stretch and recovery from that stretch, but resilience of that over time. And so we have some data here showing the effect of, looks like my mouse is there. Let me just get a laser pointer. There we go. So if we look at the growth of a fabric after 500 cycles of loading at 5 pounds per load of a traditional spandex-based fabric compared with one that's made with our bicomponent Sorona fiber. And just briefly, the bicomponent fiber means we have Sorona fiber that's co-extruded side by side with a traditional polyester. And because of the differential shrinkage of those polymers during processing, we create a coil that acts like a mechanical spring in the fabric. And so where traditional spandex stretches due to molecular stretch, this is more of a macro stretch in that crimp structure that's developed. And so we can use this in comfort stretch applications where we're looking for anywhere from 15 to 30%. Once we get into higher power stretch and high tension stretch, we'll work together with spandex. But we can also replace spandex in fabrics like this agile fabric that we have as an example here. And so as you can see in the warp direction in this example, we have 30% growth in the spandex example after 1 minute versus the 12% growth that we have in the Sorona fabric. And then after 24 hours, you have some additional recovery in that spandex down to about 16%, but we're all down to 5% with the mechanical stretch. And so this is where we can improve the life of that garment and prevent things from going to a landfill or going to whatever its end of life cycle is going to be before it needs to. Similarly, you can see in the weft direction, we offer similar improvement in performance. Another key piece of the appearance retention and the newness of that garment is around wrinkle recovery. And so we similarly offer or are able to achieve with Sorona after washing examples or repetitive washing, you're able to see in the images that we have down here, significant recovery from that wrinkling. And so again, keeping those garments looking newer longer, keeping them in cycle, whether it's with a single user and keeping it in their closet longer, or enabling products that are in these rental and reuse value chains to be recirculated. So when it comes to the design and development piece of this, if we could only use Sorona in a narrow scope of applications, it would limit the ability that we have to address the widespread need for more sustainable materials in the market. And so one of the key value propositions that we have as a company is we work all the way through the value chain with each step technically, and then also from a marketing and positioning perspective to make sure the value chain is educated on the value proposition that Sorona can deliver and from a performance perspective, but also what it's bringing to the table from a sustainability perspective. And so when it comes to product design, I'm currently sitting at our lab in Gurgaon, India, where we have a full manufacturing process, but at a lab scale. And it's a key asset that we have where we can develop processes here for spun yarn manufacturing, knit fabric development, woven fabric development, and dyeing and finishing processes that are fully translatable to the commercial scale. And so this lab and these capabilities that we have that are shown on the screen here, which were custom built for our team, these enable us to work very quickly as new brands come to the market, new mills join us, to be able to help them design whatever product they're interested in making, whether we've previously made it or not. And so this capability allows us to bring the Sorona products to a much wider value chain. We have examples of this where this lab is supporting over virtual meetings to Latin America, to North America, Europe, and throughout South Asia and Asia. And so this is a key piece of that enablement and supporting the use of sustainable materials through the value chain. So finally, the last of the trends that we're looking at are this focus around what it means to recycle. And so we're seeing customer at the consumer level and government and also brand desire and demand for increased circularity throughout the industry. And there's tons of challenges there. We'll talk about a few of them. But along with that is also then the requirements for the increased traceability and transparency through the value chain to be able to verify and certify that the circularity practices that are being claimed are actually being used and that they're actually being delivered upon. And so these are two key pieces. So when it comes to the challenges, the logistical and technical complexity of the end of life of textiles, recycling textiles is huge, especially when we look at it on a global scale. And so we have these garments that end up in individual consumers' closets, and we need to somehow collect them, bring them back, and get them into a full value chain where the materials are compatible with one another, the processing is there, and all of this can be done in a way that we're not creating more sustainability issues through emissions and other processing considerations, but also that it's logistically and from an economical perspective able to be delivered on. And then also, again, this piece of traceability and transparency through these value chains is also crucial because we've seen numbers of examples over years now where a company will at the end be specifying something and believe that they're fulfilling the claims that they're making for a product, but through work after the fact are learning that, okay, that was not sourced in that way or that wasn't there. And so governments are starting to put a higher standard around traceability and transparency of the value chains, but the brands are also self-policing and self-imposing requirements around improving these areas. And so we're doing work together to try to improve that. So from our perspective at Covation Bio, we're working on demonstrating how Sorona can participate in these recycling value chains that are being developed globally and finding ways that we can enable garments to be recycled where traditional constructions may not. And also, we're working, because of the work that I described previously, how we work through the value chain, we're able to bring end-to-end transparency and traceability with each part of the value chain and help make those connections that are otherwise sometimes very difficult to make. So as we look at Sorona, so Sorona polymer, we've demonstrated can be recycled mechanically and it can be recycled chemically. We've done this with polyester-based recycling streams from a fiber-to-fiber perspective using mechanical recycling. And we've also done this at a lab scale with depolymerization and repolymerization. So we've shown that Sorona can participate in this way. And what's crucial about that is there are other materials, and most notably spandex, that are very difficult to recycle as a whole garment, or even as a shredded and micro or reduced fiber garment as well. Because of the difference in chemistry between the polyurethanes of the spandex and polyesters, it's very difficult to separate those two in an effective way. Because Sorona and regular polyester are in the same family of materials, we have opportunities to work more compatibly with them and to bring them together into a controlled recycling stream. And so these are the types of things that we've developed so that we're prepared to work with the industry as these recycling value chains are coming together for textiles. And so we're happy to be currently working with a number of the startups that are working in this space to bring together these recycling value chains and to help them understand how Sorona could participate in their value chains. So, and finally, from a value chain engagement and traceability and transparency perspective, we work at each step. And so from a raw material perspective, when we're talking about the bio-PDO that we use to make Sorona, that 1,3-propane-diol, we go all the way back to the farm where the corn is grown to be able to trace where that corn came from and ensure that the farming practices that are being used there are sustainable and are supporting the environment and not degrading it. And so we have a program with a company called Truterra, which allows us to have this oversight. And so with Truterra, we trace the feedstock from the farm to the plant where this is processed. We have 26 agricultural conservation practices that are required to be used by the farms that are a part of this program. And we track 100 data points at the field level to make sure that the soil is being treated appropriately and the processes that are being used are as sustainable as possible to ensure that we're not damaging the environment by growing that corn. And this is applied to 100% of the feedstock of corn that's used to make our bio-PDO. As we get to the polymer level of Sorona, we're a Blue Sign system partner, and we have on all of the Sorona products are registered products. Blue Sign is a compliance program which requires strict ecological and toxicological criteria be met, but it also looks at the social responsibility of the business and the plants that are making this product, as well as the overall sustainability. And so routine audits are a part of this process to make sure that we have ongoing compliance. We also routinely test our material to verify the bio-based content using the standard ASTM method that's used based on renewable carbon 13 analysis. As we get to the fabric level, we work with the value chain to have certification of the fabrics that are made with Sorona. So to be a part of our common thread certification program, a mill must submit fabric samples that go through rigorous testing based on their intended application and verification of their Sorona content. This helps brands downstream that are using these fabrics to understand and have the confidence that what they're buying does in fact include Sorona as a bio-based material and is being incorporated into their products downstream, supporting many claims that they're making to their customers. We have these certified fabrics in a database that we then make available for the downstream to be able to select materials that are meeting both these performance and Sorona content requirements. And so then, and again, getting back to this idea of flexibility in application, we have thousands of fabrics that are a part of this library so that regardless of the application, we're able to bring a solution to the market. And finally, our engagement with the brands and retailers gives us that end-to-end connection where we can help a brand at the end piece together their value chain and understand where each of the products are coming from. And in this case of the Sorona that they're using all the way back to the farm. And so this connection allows us to develop that transparency and bring new methods and new approaches, partnering together with those brands. So as we started, there's a number of challenges, and this is just a few of the things that we face and some of the potential solutions. But by working together, we can drive these solutions that are sustainable and bring this performance in a way that's not cost prohibitive, is scalable, and is delivering the performance with the sustainability. And so we're working throughout the markets in India and South Asia and throughout around the rest of the world to further grow and be a part of the solution to the sustainability challenges that we face in the apparel industry. And so we're looking forward to continuing the work that we're doing here in the region and globally to bring the products that are made with these polymers and these materials as solutions to the entire apparel industry. So that is the conclusion of my prepared remarks, but I'd be happy to take any questions or discuss anything further.
What are the production levels that we have achieved with this?
The performance levels? So we have, it depends on the application. So in apparel, we have for the bicomponent fibers, we have both a spandex replacement approach, and we also have a spandex support approach. If we talk about the spandex replacement approach, like the example that we cited, we're able to achieve similar stretch, comfort stretch in the 15 to 25, 30% range, but that stretch is durable over the life of the garment. The fiber can be dyed with typical dispersed dyes, and so we can overcome some of the shine through and other challenges that are typical of spandex. We have the wash fastness, the shape retention, and so all these places where traditional spandex can break down and lose its shape or lose its stretch, the mechanical stretch that we bring with the bicomponent fiber is resilient over the life of the garment. Then we're also able to bring stretch to certain applications where spandex can't be used. So we're recently seeing a lot of development with Sorona and bicomponent fibers with linen, where linen is traditionally very difficult to bring stretch with spandex. We're able to bring this comfort stretch using the bicomponent fibers. And so we find a number of applications like that where Sorona performs quite well. And there's other ways of using Sorona as well with homofilament where we just have just Sorona in the fiber and we can get very good shape retention and crimp recovery and wrinkle resistance with natural hand feel. So there's a wide range of applications for Sorona.
But with the stretch fabrics, the possibility of using it or replacing non-sustainable fibers is quite limited because it's a very small percentage of the total fabric or apparel production which is aesthetic.
So we can be used in a large number of applications. Places where it's a little bit more challenging are where we have no problem. Or where you require very high levels of power in the stretch. So certain like bike shorts are the traditional example, or certain designs for yoga pants. There's more of a requirement to use spandex. But even there, we can still use the bicomponent fiber with the spandex to provide the recovery. So the spandex will provide the stretch, but we'll provide the recovery with the bicomponent fiber, which then again helps endure the life of that garment. And so, but by and large, for a lot of the stretch that's being added in the industry right now, the comfort stretch, that 15 to 30% that we're able to get with the bicomponent fiber, is often what's needed. Spandex with so much stretch has to go through lots of extra heat setting and treatment to reduce the stretch so that it's not too elastic. And so we're already in that space, and so we're also able to eliminate some of those extra processing steps.
See, what about the availability of the plant from which you are making Sorona fiber?
Yes, so industrial dent corn is the product that's used to make the bio-PDO, and it's a massive industry in the United States. It's used to make an enormous number of products, from animal feed to other industrial chemicals. And we are using just a tiny portion of the industrial corn that's produced today. And because of the sustainable agricultural practices that we're using and just the overall scale of this industry in the United States, we're a very, very small portion of the material that's produced. So we have the opportunity to scale up with that, which is part of why corn was selected as the feedstock for this material.
You have used some birds in your coins. Birds you have coined on. It is a normal in nowadays. Slow fashion, circular fashion, and rental fashion. You are a manufacturer. How this is going to help you in expanding your business? Because this is all these are in bringing the business of manufacturers down. That when the fiber or fabric, when the fabric is used, or garment is used again and again through slow fashion, they are not fast fashion is always helpful to the manufacturers and fabricators. And so, secondly, circular fashion, same thing. And now you have again advocated rental fashion, a new term, which I have heard today. Before that, though rental fashion is there for, say, ladies are going when they are doing some shows and all.
Dresses.
Yeah, rental fashion.
So that is there.
Large scale.
But
In India, it is very common.
it is very common. But in your presentation, as a manufacturer, you have advocated it. How these things are going to help you in growing your business?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of pieces where today we're a very small portion of the market. And so the sustainability that we're able to bring is just a small component of the total industry. Our goal by displacing traditionally sourced materials and traditional manufacturing processes that are less efficient is to reduce the impact of the industry and reduce the consumption of non-bio-based materials and the repetition of the cycle. I think this is something that the whole industry has to wrestle with, is the idea of businesses that are built on large turnover in garments and consumers buying increasing number of garments. I do think there's going to be a challenge for that to continue into the future, especially as we're seeing the legislation that's coming into place and the shifts in consumer behaviors. So I do believe that companies that are looking today at opportunities to make the industry more efficient and be make products that are going to last longer are ultimately going to be ahead as these trends continue to take foot and continue to drive forward. But it absolutely is a challenge that as an overall industry, it's going to have to be recognized that the year-over-year growth may slow to a lower rate, but this also may mean that business models way that these partners the brand partners in particular are participating in the value chain will change. And this is where what we're seeing is brands are starting to have their own collection programs. And so they're becoming a part of this reuse and recycle program. And they're finding ways that their business model can also benefit from that behavior. And so I think those are the types of evolutions that we're going to continue to see more of. And so we're happy to be a part of that process and those discussions to find ways that while we can continue to offset and displace traditionally sourced materials by growing our business, which is of course our goal, we can also work with the value chains to find ways that they can make their business sustainable, even at a place where it's not built on fast turns of garments.
Mental change is required.
That is where another thing that which what Dr. Wal has add another aspect which will bring the concept of reuse. Make one cloth out of two. Patchwork. That will bring a totally new way that my designers come into picture and they can design a new cloth out of two reused clothes. So that will have a value addition. And at the same time, that the people those are working in the area of fashion, because their innovation will bring the value addition of reused garments. So that's what earlier used to be old days, the patchwork.
It is getting ground.
Patchwork is mostly that is at this moment is working in your homemade fabric. Very common thing. Home furnishing. The same thing now that will have to bring back to apparel also. Patchwork. मेरी दादी दादा ने किया है ये वो कपड़ा फट गया पुराना और उसको करके पैचवर्क करके that they made a smaller shirt. The same thing that can also bring, and that will bring a good value addition.
I think you're absolutely right.
It is gaining ground, but from the new cloth, not from the used cloth. It is gaining ground. Lot of
No, I'm talking about now the used cloth.
Yeah, but there is industry, in that direction also, which is gaining ground. So, and in India also, a lot of designers are paying attention to this.
I think let us ask from the audience the questions if they want to ask.
Yes, we can take up questions one by one. And if the audience is willing to speak up their questions, so I'm unmuting. The first question is from Mr. Basser, Dr. Basser. Dr. Basser, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Dr. Basser, you can, yeah, we can see you.
Really great presentation. Basically, we have worked with Sorona.
I think, let's see, I have my audio off over here because we were having an issue.
No,
So,
my audio is on.
is your speaker on?
Yeah, speaker is off.
Oh, can you turn your speaker on? Because my speaker is off.
Okay. Dr. Basser, you can speak up again.
Sure. I think Mr. Kothare's audio is on. Can you mute him? Thank you. So,
Has he given his question?
Yeah, he has given the question. So,
You can read the question.
Yeah.
okay.
Can I speak?
Do you want to read it? I can turn this volume up in the menu.
Read the question.
Okay. Dr. Basser wants to ask on the sustainable dyeing and finishing is very important. Thus, in the place of traditional dyeing, as stated, we can use our sustainable dyeing, which is Supreno, to further save the water, energy, and chemicals to have synergetic advantage for Sorona in terms of final consumer of finished product. You can also see the question and answer.
Yeah, I understand. We had a trial with this guy. I think we were in touch with Dr. Basa. We submitted the report and
In fact, we have gone to Netherlands also to show how it is used. But still the industry is
really understand the fastness specs of these kind of ties, and they really don't want to revolutionize very soon. But again, you can take more trials and try to understand how it works.
Excellent. Yes. No, thank you. And you're absolutely right. I think in terms of there's so much opportunity when it comes to dyeing and finishing processes for textiles with
Sorona and its lower temperature dyeability, there's some real opportunities to improve and participate in products that use new and innovative ways of applying dyes and finishing fabrics.
So we have
Mr.
conducted some
Ashok
trials
Chaturvedi wants
also.
to ask on any efforts have been done on banana fiber. He want to ask. If so, please update what has been done and the products, information on the product.
So that's not something that we've done any development on, but there are
an enormous number of activities across the industry with
almost every fiber
material
that's available.
So we
were very inspired by the work that's being done across the industry with
these
types of products and
are looking for ways to
further combine Sorona with these fibers that we made and so on. But
I'm not aware of any specific applications or specific partners that are working on banana fibers.
Dr. Beauty wants to ask on, she's trying to acknowledge, thank you for sharing the knowledge, but how feasible is this for the business and the business community? I don't know, the question is not so clear.
So that's so at Sorona, and then perhaps it's also about Mr. Chairman's question about the reduction of consumption or limiting consumption. But I'll first talk about for Sorona.
So the key to Sorona and its economics have been
the efficiency of our processing to be able to go from a renewable feedstock to a chemical that can be used to make a polymer. The efficiency of that process is one of the major challenges of going from a bio-based material to a polymer that can be used in a robust way like Sorona can. Thanks to many years of research and the successful commercialization of that PDO product, we are able to do this at a scale and level that is affordable economically for the value chain. It certainly is a more expensive product than traditionally sourced polyester, as you probably suspect.
But it's a product that's able to be adopted to large manufacturers. So we have programs with companies like Costco, Under Armour, many others.
L.L.Bean, Eddie Bauer, PBH, large players in the industry are using Sorona fibers and products made with Sorona on a running basis. And so we've reached that part of the market where we can achieve scale and volume, where we're in markets where that performance is appreciated and can be sold
to a consumer. And if the question is more geared towards the idea
of slow fashion and reuse and all those things, hopefully the discussion was helpful for that.
Mr. Nagarajan says that the stretch recovery comparison made by you varied in the blend composition. Is there any minimum blend ratio for Sorona to get expected results?
Sure. So I'll let our leader in the fabric space here get into the details, because I want to make sure we can get as specific as possible for the question. So Akshay, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. So basically, as you rightly said, depends on the type of the fabric we want to make. So in the staple field, I think we can go as low as
10 or 11% in the web direction to get the stretch recovery above 85%. So that's how the minimum which we can use. So maximum, of course, we can go up to 50% like we are using in linens to get the equivalent recoveries of more than 85%. That's how. And for filament, I think depends on the denier and the fabric construction. So up to 30% to more, up to like 40-45% is the range where we can use filaments also.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kumar.
Mr. Ashok wants to ask whether the Sorona polymer is available in resin, chips, form for conversion.
It is, yes. That's our article of commerce as Covation Bio. We sell the polymer chips to spinners, and we then work with those spinners on their conversion and through the value chain. So we are essentially a polymer supplier, but our engagement is throughout the value chain. So yes, that is possible.
Mr. Steven, I would like you to tell the audience the initiatives you have taken with Indian companies and other leading brands for introduction of Sorona fibers.
Hmm,
You will tell the audience.
certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so development in the market, in the Indian market is a crucial area for us. We've been working here since 2010. We've had the lab that's shared the details of since 2014.
Yeah, it is functional from 2014.
In 2014, and so
we're working with the customer right from 2010.
right, and so we've been working closely with spun yarn manufacturers, fabric mills, fabric finishers, garmenters, brands, traders throughout this market for the last 15 years. And so this is an area for us of extreme importance and emphasis, especially over the last 6 years. We've seen the trend and the desire for the global brands and global retailers to have diversified value chains. And so there's a renewed emphasis and renewed growth for this region. We also are seeing that as this region becomes more, so this has always been a huge region for cotton and spun yarns, but now seeing more adoption and of mixed use of synthetics together with spun yarns, and then also working towards synthetics, we're seeing more and more opportunities as well to bring Sorona into the market. And so we have Dr. Kumar and his team here that works with the value chains to develop new products, to help logistically get products here that are made in other regions so that they can be used to make fabrics and go through the rest of the process. So we're very excited to be working in this region, and it's an area of focus for us going forward.
Would you like to give the audience the name of the companies you are working with Sorona Fibers?
So, yeah, we are working with almost all the, fabric manufacturer and
That day in our meeting, you were the dentist who is working at Surat. He was telling few names, leading Indian brands with whom Sorona is.
Killer was a recent launch in the shirts, and the Linen Raymond's launched the Linen Connection.
Yes.
And we launched in the past with the Baswara, Baswara Syntex, RSW, Bardhaman, Arvins, KG Dynams,
Right.
Whatever the big customer or the Levi's also through this value chain of the linen, which I told you, the British linen, this JP Modatex and the, to JP Modatex.
The audience to be told about that. It is already.
It's a commercial product, yeah. The quantum may be low, but it's being used by all the.
Value-added product.
Yes. Yeah, to kind of put it into rough scale, currently Sorona is in somewhere around 400 to 600 million garments a year.
Dr. Yadav, more questions?
I think there's no more questions in the chat box, so if any other information. Yeah, I can come in, Shanbag. Yeah.
Oh, we spent time earlier talking about all these things.
No, you can speak something for the audience about his presentation and the.
One question, why superior to polyester? That also can be explained, because why you prefer?
Oh, yes. So in uses of just 100% Sorona on its own, which we call the homofilament, we have nicer and more natural hand feel due to the shrinkage and the bulk development of the fiber, better shape retention and wrinkle resistance. So Sorona has been very successful in outerwear applications like raincoats, but also for formal wear for ladies, where we can put a shape into the fiber and it'll hold that shape. And so that's for the homofilament, but for the bicomponent, we actually are working together with polyester, and it's the difference in how those two polymers shrink, which is what creates that mechanical stretch for the polymer and so for the fiber. And so there we're really working together with polyester to deliver a fiber that has that differentiated property.
Shanbag, you would like to say something on his presentation on group of Sorona in India?
Well, it's been a very interesting half hour of presentation. It's always a matter of great interest to learn about the R&D, and particularly coming from Covation and the DuPont, system. It's been very interesting to see in an overarching manner all the things that you have talked about and how principally you're looking at the 3 Rs and breaking them down into sustainable achievements, which is very important because in the field of sustainability, it's a great challenge. Uh, Keeping sustainability within the achievement space. So thank you very much. I'm sure the audience would have listened with great patience and interest, and some of the questions that have been asked are indicative of that. So we will look forward to more developments in this. This is the second Covation lecture which NISTI has sponsored and organized, and it's a matter of great pleasure.
2023.
December 2023 was when the first was presented. So it's a good partnership that we have with Covation, and it's a great pleasure, to continue to and take this partnership forward in a very meaningful way. I'm sure between Akshay and the chairman, we can look at ways and means of furthering this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your
Thank you,
comments.
Professor Ishtiaq. You would like to say something on on the future of this product in India?
You see, it is a very innovative product, I would say. And I'm seeing it's a lot of end users that you'll find. And definitely it is a value-added product, as I say. So that one should not compare with the polyester because it has its own, Sorona has its own novelty. And this product has to be seen from that angle rather than comparing. Because unfortunately, that our industry starts comparing with X versus Y. Because you cannot compare this guava versus apple. You have to compare apple versus apple.
You have to look at the novelty.
Novelty. So in that case, that we have to see the novelty from this end use requirement, where that you will find that other fibers they cannot. Because and this spandex has its own potential, but it has its own limitations also. Yes. So this what the Sorona is bringing, that I would say, that is bringing some sort of, I would say, natural aspect. Not, allow me to say, this spandex is a artificial aspect. But here, Sorona, that this novelty is that it is giving you this natural structure into the fabric, which is going to help in big way in comfort properties, and particularly what I was talking before lunch, that this Vortex and all. Yes. So, in this, their area. So here that I'm seeing there's a lot of potential, and particularly our industry should take full advantage of that. And in fact, I have seen because what we say कि चिराग तले अंधेरा, मैं गुड़गांव में होके पहली बार first time that I visited the lab, but a beautiful lab, I would say.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
and I think that you should allow this education institute to come the how to make a compact lab with all facilities. That was an eye opener for me. Very honestly saying, I admit that a beautiful lab with all good infrastructure with a less space. A dedicated team that with a few number this we should learn from this lab. This is at least I'm learning, and thanks to Akshay inviting me for that. But yes, as I say, this fiber that I'm seeing a lot of potential of this fiber, and here that you have to bring novelty, different type of fabric, different end uses. And where that you will find the other fiber that will not be that much problem. Thank you. I'm seeing a good potential of this one. Thank you.
This was a thought in my mind too, and Ishtiaq gave good expression to that. I was just thinking maybe we could sit down one day and see how students of our partner Textile Institutes can benefit from this by visiting.
Yes, absolutely our pleasure to host you today and then to have your expert comments and experience learning. It was really good motivational, I think, speech by Steve, and they're as good as 70%, 70 guests were there who joined online as well, and I think this is a really good, 70. And especially on the working day and early afternoon.
We should fight all over.
They were very nice, publicity and support from the whole industry team and the whole, guidance from you all. Basically, we could able to have this talk successful.
Yes, thank you all for this opportunity and to the whole NIST
Thank you for
organization.
good lecture, I would say.
Oh, thank you.
Very crisp, very
Very, very
nicely
crisp,
presented
very
and-
crisp, and very well.
Very well,
Oh, well, thank you all. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.